There we go.
Hey, Nate, how are you, man?
Good. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, man.
Thanks.
Hey, your video is cutting off the top of your head right now.
How's that?
Much better. Much better.
Let's do that.
Cool, man. Cool. By the way, I've enjoyed your videos lately. One quick note. I mean, I think you're probably doing it on purpose. I don't know, but you'll have your like laptop. You're not even like looking at the camera when you're posting some of your videos on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's just I have a camera sitting right here.
Yeah.
It's recording me talking to somebody.
Oh, okay. I get it. Okay.
Yeah, like it's just me having like actual conversations.
Okay. Cool.
So, and you're only seeing you just see my side of the conversation.
I get it. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I just thought I'd let you know. I was looking at it, I'm like, that's a little odd, but for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, I think it's just like it's an approach that I decided, I don't know, to take. It's just, yeah.
You know, you can record your meetings on Zoom, like we're recording right now.
Yeah, I can. I don't like the quality of it, and I don't like the way it looks.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I don't. So I'm doing this on my phone right now. My phone camera is much higher quality than like my laptop camera.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think like, I think like also too, I don't know, like just, this is all like my own perception of it, but I think most people know what I'm doing, at least. Well, I don't know, maybe they don't, but it shows that like I'm talking about the things that like, instead of me just like posting and saying like this idea or whatever, like I'm actually like telling people about that idea. Like I'm telling like,
that's not clear.
Yeah.
That's not clear in your videos.
Okay.
That's my feedback. At least, and maybe I'm slow. Maybe I'm
no. Yeah, I don't know.
But not quick to pick that up. My feedback, because I liked your content and I see it on LinkedIn, is I have no idea what's going on. It's like, here's a guy who's not looking at the camera, talking to a computer. I mean, I think I could eventually pick it up, but I just think that a lot of times people build connection with your eyes. And when you see the camera itself, it feels like you're looking at me, even though I know you're not actually looking at me.
Okay.
Viewer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
That's one thing I learned from a couple cinema interns I had in the past was you build a lot of trust and connectivity with your eyes looking at the camera itself, which I know is odd because in a lot of like, you know, you hear in the acting world, don't look at the camera.
Right.
But we're not
Yeah.
actors. We're providing a message to the audience that we
Sure.
want to hear our message, which is different.
Yeah, totally. It's good feedback, man.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, totally. No, I appreciate it.
Cool. So let's dive in. So
Okay.
this is the hashtag Why Get a Mentor podcast. I'm going to ask you about mentors you've had in your life, how mentors have helped you get to where you're at today, and just other components of mentorship that you feel like have helped you more or less succeed, helped you get here. Because I think when we can give shout outs to other people that have helped us make our story what it is, one is a great gratitude exercise, but two, it's a great way to show other people to be vulnerable and open to having mentors in their life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sounds great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's dive in. By the way, anytime I'm looking down, it's because I got a piece of paper with notes and questions on it.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Cool. So when I was doing an interview with a woman, and she was just like, I see you're looking down, Garrett. Like in the middle of the interview that we're recording, and I'm like, yeah, I got notes and prep materials. I'm taking notes while you're talking.
Yeah.
You know, oh, I thought you were looking at your phone. I'm like, no, that's recording.
Yeah, right. That'd be weird.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm not casually on Twitter right now, but
I know.
okay. That was a weird one, mid-record, but I think we recovered from that nicely.
Okay, good.
Cool. So I'm so excited to begin our next podcast, our video podcast, hashtag Why Get a Mentor. Our guest today is Nate. Actually, before I get started, Nate, is it Guggia or how do I pronounce your last name?
Yeah, Guggia.
Guggia. Great, perfect. That's what I thought. I just, figured I pronounce it right.
Yeah, no, it's a weird one.
All good. Okay, cool. So I'm so excited to begin our hashtag Why Get a Mentor podcast. We have an awesome guest for you today. I'm with Nate Guggia. Nate is the founder of Career Portraits. He works with growth stage startups to help them attract the most competitive talent. He's all about helping connect people, helping put the right people in the right places. Nate, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Happy to be here. I do want to make a quick correction though, if that's okay. Company's called Job Portraits.
Yes.
And you said Career Portraits.
Oh, let me start over again.
And I'm definitely not the founder.
Oh, you're not the founder. Okay, I apologize.
No. Okay.
On all parts. Well,
that's okay.
Thank you for clarifying. I guess I apologize for my poor background research. What is your title at Job Portraits?
I lead brand marketing. That's the easiest way to say it. Yeah.
Cool. All right, we'll start again.
Cool.
Hey everyone, I am so excited to begin our podcast today, our hashtag Why Get a Podcast. We have an awesome guest today. His name is Nate Guggia. He is the director of brand growth at Job Portraits. Essentially, at Job Portraits, he works with growth stage startups to help them attract the most competitive talent. He's a natural at putting the right people in the right places, and he does some amazing work, not only in Silicon Valley, but all across the world, helping startups attract the right people to be on their team and help them take them to the next level. Nate, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Garrett.
So, Nate, this podcast is all about mentors in our lives and how mentors have helped us get to where we are at today. So I'd love just to initially ask you, have you had any mentors that have helped you get to where you're at today?
Yes, I have. Actually, a mentor played like what now, like looking back at like kind of my career arc, the most significant, the most significant part of like where I'm at today. I think I didn't know it at the time, but when I look back at like this journey that I've been on, she was like instrumental in like triggering something that just like led me on a new path and opened up doors that wouldn't have been there. It's pretty special when I look back at the impact that it's had. So,
do you mind if we dive into that a little bit? I love stories that stories become tangible and help us kind of see how maybe our life could play into somebody else's life and how that story could intertwine. Where were you and how did she help you get onto the path that you're at today?
Yeah, for sure. So I I had been, I went to, just like a little background, I went to college in Arizona, and after I graduated, I moved back to California where I'm from. Um, and I was working in the wine business for a while, and then I kind of pivoted careers, and I got into personal finance. And I was looking, I just was like, I needed to like explore. I was at this age where like, I just like wanted to get out and just like see new opportunities. And that took me back to Arizona. And I ended up working in this financial firm with a buddy from college. And there was a woman in the office who I just like naturally developed this bond with. And the reason was because I was going through some like major life changes at the time. Right. And just like, to be like completely transparent, I had like, I quit drinking. So it was like the initial like start of like my sobriety, which was just like this big, like pivotal point in like my personal life and like figuring out who I was as a, just like as a person. So I'm like working in this financial office, kind of doing my thing, going through this stuff like personally, which like opened me up to this world of like personal development and like self-discovery that like I had always just been blocked to. I think I was like basically operating in a haze for like 15 years of my life. And like, I was coming out of it and trying to figure out like, who am I? What am I supposed to be doing? And she was really like, she was open to those things. She would like, her and I would like just have conversations in the hall, which turned into like us having like coffee before work once a week, and her just kind of like dropping a lot of like knowledge on me about like self-discovery. And she opened me up to like Eckhart Tolle and like all these like different authors, and so we initially connected on that front. So she was like this person who like, I was like in this like kind of stale professional environment, as you can imagine, in like a financial firm. And she was just this like source of like knowledge and like truth for me that I was really needing. Right. Then this is like where things got like super cool. She found this company based out of Utah. This is in like 2008. They were a financial firm made up of just like a bunch of young people who were doing this like innovative personal finance and like self-development combination. It was like nobody was doing it. Nobody was talking about money the way that they were. And it was just like revolutionary in the world of money, basically. So she went out there to Utah and spent a couple days kind of shadowing the founder and stuff, and came back, and she was just like on fire. Like she was just like, you're not going to believe what I experienced. You're not going to believe the stuff that the clients they're working with, the stuff they're talking about, just like all this, that one turned me on to that company, but it opened up our conversation even more from just being like this personal development type relationship to it being like, oh, these are all the innovative ways to like talk about money. And like, then after I started following the company in Utah for a while, I went to her and I said, like, I really want to go work for them. Like I need, like, that's what I need to be doing. And she's like, okay, I'll see if I can make an introduction. And so she did. Long story short, after a couple months of like me going back and forth with them, they offered me an opportunity, and I basically like jumped ship from everything I was doing and just like moved to Utah completely blind of like anything that was going on out there, and just like went for it, because I was at this point in my life where like I realized that if I didn't do something like that, I would regret it and I would just never know. And I didn't want to live with that. That put me on this trajectory that like has taken me like all over the place. I mean, it was the greatest experience I could ever have. And like, but if it wasn't for her, none of this would have ever happened. Like I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't be in the position I am today. Like none of it.
I love that. I love that part. I love your story. That was really cool. It makes me think of a few things. One, the first thing you think of, what's the adage, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives.
It was 100% that. Yes.
I think for you, it's, obviously tough to be sober while working in the wine industry.
Oh, no,
So,
that was before. That was before.
well, I know. Well, exactly. So you left the wine industry, you were becoming sober, you went to Arizona to work in personal finance. I don't
Yeah.
know if either of those had any overlapping or whatever, but I'm just making
Yeah.
an observation.
Yeah.
But I guess the point I'm making, the next key thing that I loved about your story is your vulnerability, because that is such a crucial element to mentor relationships. One of the things that I've observed is that you cannot have trust unless you've got vulnerability first. So there are some people I've heard be like, oh, I'll be vulnerable once I have some trust with you. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. You have to be vulnerable, and your willingness to be vulnerable with her, to take it from a personal development to a career development type of relationship, and just an even deeper, more meaningful, like, what is the thing that drives me, conversation was really fascinating. And the really cool part, so if I'm understanding you right, she worked at your company and she potentially actively helped connect you with somebody outside of your company. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
But I think the cool part about that whole scenario is that I think a lot of times as companies, we think to ourselves like, oh man, if you leave, you're a traitor, you're the worst. But I think in this scenario, you've got a great probably relationship with that initial financial firm in Arizona. You're an alumni of the organization. And I would
Yeah.
bet that if you needed a job and wanted to work back at their company, they would welcome you back with open arms. But I don't know,
Yeah.
that's an assumption. Maybe I'm drawing too much from that.
No, I mean, I think like you're bringing up a very interesting and I think like astute observation in that is all part of, we'll call it like employee experience, right? And how it's actually more beneficial for somebody to have a good exit from your company to go pursue something that lights them up, right? Or whatever, that's just like more in alignment with who they are as an individual at that point than it is for them to like stay at your company for like retention purposes, right? Like if you leave and like you look back now, what are we, 12 years later or something, and I'm like still telling the story that I've told so many times, and I'm still speaking about the company the same way, like that's very telling of like the impact that like mindset has on a person, right? Like, and so I think you're spot on with what you're saying.
And that's cool. And that's, I think, a really progressive way of thinking about work and your work relationships. Because I think when it comes to mentoring relationships, I mean, a question I have on my piece of paper of notes is, how can mentors help you be better at your job, help you be a more engaged employee? I'd love to learn your thoughts. I think you kind of already answered that a little bit with your relationship with this mentor that you had, but I'd love to learn your thoughts. How did she help you be more excited about work, even if it was work for a different company? How did she help you just invigorate some of the things that you wanted to do?
Yeah. It was, what she did was she brought a new way of thinking to something that we were already doing. And that was like that was the spark. It was like this level of like creativity and outside the box thinking, that just like I didn't know about, and nobody else around me was even thinking that way, right? So, but I was looking for that, and that's what it was. But I think like I even look now at like these types of relationships that I currently have in my life, and like what I experience like now in my work life, which is different than it was then. Now I have people in my life who help me with things like overwhelm and like trying to manage too many things or saying yes to too many things, and like the mental emotional health aspect of work is now what like the relationships in my life help me with the most. So it's like interesting how like it at that point in my life, like I was really trying to figure out who I was and like what my purpose was and how that aligned with work. And now it's about like, how do I effectively manage work? Right? It's like just a little bit different.
Well, I think it's almost like you've taken it to a more granular level. Like,
I have, yeah.
it's you're a scientist with your career in your life. At first it was, okay, how can I align my career and my passions, the things that I want to accomplish with the money I want to make, and my value system, and the things that I want to get done, both personally, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, whatever. all of those things have now become into alignment, it sounds like. And now you're focused on how can I be more efficient and effective within the realm of where I'm at, because I'm enjoying where I'm at. I just want to be better at where I'm at and be more
That's right.
effective.
Yes.
And that makes a ton of sense to me. It sounds, I think one of the most consistent themes about your story is the massive action. I think you created a massive action plan for yourself. And really, even in times when it seemed like there was maybe no plan, or you're like, I'm just genuinely interested, I'm willing to take massive action. I learned about this new thing and I want to just jump in full head of steam into this. Whereas maybe earlier when, earlier in your life when you were in California before you came to Arizona, you were just, the point I'm making with massive action is that you were willing to take it, you were open to that, which is really cool. And so it leads me to a question of, when it comes to people that are on the fence about building mentoring relationships, thinking that they don't have the time for it, or that for whatever excuse they've got in the book for why they shouldn't be doing it, what is your thoughts on dissuading them from denying those mentors in their life?
Yeah, that's a good question. So here, I'll just tell you like what I do now. Because this is something that like I still like proactively seek out. The mentality that I have like overall is the quickest way to figure something out is to just go straight to the source. And so I've always been like just good at that, right? And I've just like been very proactive in like seeking out people who like know the answers to the things that like, or to the questions that I have, right? They're already doing the things that I want to be doing. They're just a little bit further ahead of me. And so if I look at like, let's say like LinkedIn, for example, right? Like I'm really active on LinkedIn and like, it's a big part of the work that I do. And like, and I see people who are further ahead, who are doing things that I think are innovative. They're just doing it the right way, whatever that means for me. I have like proactively reached out to people. I've had tons of virtual coffee conversations. They have downloaded all of their stuff onto me. And as a result, like I have a handful of like core relationships purely from doing that, who I talk to once, twice a month, where now it's like the shared relationship where we're talking about everything from like managing our work life, personal stuff, LinkedIn stuff, whatever, and it's just like, and it's all from like seeking out conversations with people whose work you really admire and realizing they're just people. They really are. Yeah.
I think that's really cool. It sounds like almost what you're creating is empathy between people. I think so often we as humans want to create barriers between us and others. And we start assuming things about other people, or assuming things about their way of life, or what we're doing and our way of life. I think I hear this often in the workplace. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this, where someone says to me, this person is trying to sabotage me. It's like most people don't have the time to think about what would be the most inconvenient thing for your world and go out of their way to try to do it. More often, they're running their own lane and choosing what's most convenient for them, but they're not empathetic or cognizant of how that affects anyone around them, more likely than not.
Yeah. Other people don't care about our stuff as nearly as much as we think. But yeah, I think like, there's, I think roadblocks for people when it comes to these types of relationships, or even just like initiating a conversation, is that the other person isn't going to understand, or the other person is at a level that I'm not at yet, so they don't want to pay attention. If we're talking about, there is a world where people are inaccessible, but there's this world that we live in on a day-to-day basis, this like business professional world, that they're normal people. They're just normal people doing really cool things, and they love to help. And people are accessible. And I've even like talked to some people who like seem somewhat unattainable, and their answer to me is like, nobody ever reaches out to me. Like nobody asks, yeah. So like and there's also too, like you mentioned earlier about the vulnerability piece. And I think like one thing like now at this point in my life that I truly embrace is like, I just show up as I am. I know that sounds like kind of cliche, but I talk the way that I talk. I'm like just very open and transparent about like, if I'm having a problem or I have an issue or whatever it is, it's like, this is it. Like, and that's the quickest way to like figure stuff out. And the moment you do that, the other person reciprocates every time.
I love that. I think
Like,
one of
oh,
the
I'm not, yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's just like you go, oh, okay. Like I can be myself too.
Yeah, it does. It creates bonds. It creates bridges. It's so funny. Well, for many reasons, there's this term "misery loves company,"
Yeah.
but I think another way of redacting that statement is, and often it's associated with a negative thing, like people bickering about things. But I think in other ways, I mean, I can definitely say as an entrepreneur, like if I'm talking to another entrepreneur who I just think is like way ahead of me, just like killing the game, doing amazing things, just raised a bunch of money and just has it down. And I'm talking with her and she's just, you think she's like killing it. And then all of a sudden she said, yeah, we're having this issue, that issue. I really struggle with this. I'm really struggling with that. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling with those things.
Right.
Whoa, like you're human. Like you've all of a sudden become a real person to me. Like all of a sudden you are way more relatable and I like you a whole lot more because you're not saying how amazing you are or how awesome. It's like, sometimes you see the books about the Mark Cubans or the Bill Gates and they're like, if you work hard, you'll get it. And it's like, no, it's not that. There's a lot of pain that goes into it. Talk about that. I think it normalizes the pain that it takes to get to where you're at and the luck that it takes sometimes to also get to where you're at as well. It helps people who are aspiring for those types of things or outcomes realize that it's not just hard work or, cliche
Right.
innovation terms,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And you're making me think about just the role that some of us like you and I have when it comes to seeking out these relationships and the value in them is that it's important for us to help connect other people, right? To like play matchmaker in a way. And like, I think like I got off a call right before this one where I was talking to somebody who's they're in a place that another relationship that I have like has gone through basically like in the same time period. They both like work for companies who had been acquired and then trying to figure out some things internally. And I was like, hey, I'm going to connect you with him because you guys have a shared experience. And I think like you could just like both really help each other. And I think like playing that role, it's something that I love to do. I love to connect like-minded people who are experiencing similar things. But I think there's just a big opportunity for people who have this like mentor mindset rather, to just like help others network with each other. Anyway.
I love that. No, and I think that makes a ton of sense because what it does is that it expands your sphere of influence.
Yes,
and
that's a good
you
one.
don't need to. I mean, I can say from my perspective, facilitating mentor relationships, tons of them across the country, from higher ed to corporate to just helping connect people with other people. It is extremely valuable. I get it all the time where, I personally didn't invest the time in the actual relationship. Maybe they've been meeting once a week for the last 6 months. If so, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But so often people come back to you and they'll be grateful for you. They'll think, how did you first connect in the first place? They'll be like, this program helped connect me. And it feels great to help be a conduit for those relationships. But I want to take a moment to ask our audience a question. Those of you watching this right now, what is a massive action that you could take right now to start setting up more mentor relationships? What are things that you can do immediately to help you get yourself involved with mentor relationships? Post in the comment section. I'd love to learn about that. So Nate, I wanted to ask you two final questions. The first one is, I mean, you kind of already touched on this, but just to be very clear, what is something that somebody who hasn't started building mentor relationships but is thinking about it, what can they do right now to get started?
Yeah. If they are, I'm just going to use LinkedIn as the example, but it's transferable to anything, I guess. But if there's people whose content that you follow that are like you can just tell they're just a few steps ahead of you, right? In like the way that they think, their perspectives, whatever it might be. Like it's easy to identify it like based off of messaging and who the person is, whatever. Just reach out to them. And I would not be afraid because I do this and I'm successful at doing it. It's like propose, just like frame it however you want. I frame it as virtual coffee, whatever. Like just say like, hey, I love what you're doing. Would love to get to know you more, whatever. Like, would you ever be open to a virtual coffee? And just like start that conversation. Don't think of it as like a formal mentor relationship. That's too intimidating, right? It's like, think about how many productive conversations with smart people can you initiate. Allow
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, and allow the relationship to organically take form. That's my advice.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice. I think that's a great way of putting it. The only thing that I would disagree with you on was the people that are just maybe one step ahead of you. I think I know in my mind, when I've reached out to people that I thought were like many, many steps ahead of me, I ended up realizing that they were like, hey man, 4, 5, 7 months ago, I was getting this kind of interaction on my videos on LinkedIn, or I was doing this type of business in terms of number of dollars or number of customers. And you think to yourself like, holy crap, I thought this person was way ahead of me.
Yeah.
I think for you, don't downplay yourself. Don't think like, oh, I only need to reach out to somebody who in my mind I think is one step ahead of me, because someone who is actually one step ahead of you may be perceptively really far ahead, and you might be really close to whatever diamond mine you've identified, but you haven't realized that you're that close.
Yeah, totally. Good point.
It's kind of like that cartoon where it's like you see two like miners and they've got a pickaxe, and one person's like digging their hole. They don't realize that a diamond's like almost there, but they end up giving up, going up and starting to dig a hole. While another person keeps digging and keeps like working at it. I think that's just some imagery to convey the importance of realizing that some people may look like they're way farther ahead of you, but in reality they may not, and they are more likely than not open and genuinely helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like what you're speaking to about just being proactive and continuing to pursue this is that you don't know which relationship is going to do it, but it can potentially change your life forever. And that sounds like a really big statement, but it's not an overstatement. It's like, it's the reality that like a new idea, a new introduction, a new opportunity, whatever, can like spark something that changes the trajectory of your life. And so I think it's like, it's easy when you're in business to focus on the things that matter most to like your role, whether that is like new customers or shipping the new product or whatever, you know, and like get in that mode and just like not realize that relationships, especially the ones outside who can like, I think a mentor does a couple things, right? They call you out on things that other people are unwilling to call you out on, right? And they see things within you that you don't see within yourself. Those are two core things that are really, really needed to be successful in business. And so like, I don't know what can be more valuable than that.
I completely agree. I think those two key points are critical.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So Nate, we're getting to the end of our podcast recording. My last question is, how can our audience find you? How can our audience connect with you?
Yeah. So I've mentioned a couple of times, I'm really active on LinkedIn. So you can find me on there. If anybody wanted to just send me an email, nate@jobportraits.com. Feel free to shoot me an email there or like a DM on LinkedIn. Those are the two easiest ways.
Cool. Awesome, Nate. Thanks for being here.
All right.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to staying in touch and looking forward to how and what our audience has to say and what our audience thinks. And if they've got any questions, they'll post in the comment section.
Cool. That sounds great. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Boom. That's it, man. That was great.
Easy enough. Yeah.
You're awesome. Great insight. This is great.
Okay.
This is going to go live late April, maybe early May. So toward the early part of the summer, I'll let you know when it's live. send you the YouTube link and we'll post it on our page. We've got a couple of because we do some higher ed stuff. We mostly do work with companies, but we do our way of giving back. We provide free higher ed mentor programs. And so we've got our higher ed clients who we serve during the semester period. And so we've got some of those workshops coming up in March and April and that sort of stuff.
Okay. That sounds awesome, man.
And yeah, man, this has been cool. I like it. And yeah, I look forward to staying in touch and interacting with your content on LinkedIn. By the way, I hope my advice was mentorly in terms of the video with the
dude, it was great feedback. Yeah, I never even thought of it.
Yeah, I know my feedback to people from me, I'll have a gratitude video where I'll record it in my car. A lot of people are like, you look like you're driving. Is that the most professional spot to be recording? And that's a fair assessment of it. I just continue to do it because the audio is fantastic in my car. It looks like I'm on the go. And, it's a quick shout out. And so I think the proponents of it, you can take all feedback with a grain of salt.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it though. I really do. So, yeah, don't worry. It was taken, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Yeah. But, good, man. I'm glad to be doing this. So thanks. I appreciate the invite.
Of course. Have a good rest of your night.
All right, bud. Bye-bye.
See ya.